one actually has included the 2016 inquiry as well. Excuse my voice, but getting worse. Chronic fatigue was suggested, but no one really knew. I was struggling to do day-to-day activities. Eventually, a doctor thought I might have had Lyme disease, and we tested for rickettsia, and I had 5 different types. No wonder I was sick, and that was just the start of it. I sent my blood to the USA lab for Lyme, to test for Lyme, and it came back with many positives on it. I definitely had Lyme disease. Then the reality of I'm on my own trying to work out how to heal my chronic Lyme, a tick bite I got from Queensland approximately 10 years ago and had it removed by a doctor. And it's only now that the symptoms have really kicked it. There was so little information about Lyme disease treatment in Australia, and I would eventually have to sell my house to pay for the enormous healthy bills I had in my desperate attempts to cure myself. Some of the healing methods I tried to help, others made me very sick. It would be 8 years before I could say I had healed myself from Lyme. But what does that really mean? I still can't work more than a few hours a week, and I'm exhausted from it. I live on a friend's property in a cabin because I can't afford to pay much rent, and definitely the days of owning my own home again are gone. I have spent over $400,000 trying to cure myself. I wish I knew more about overseas countries that have effective treatment, and I would still have money in the bank. How did Lyme affect me, besides not being able to work? So financial stress was huge, especially being a single mum, then selling my home. Still, to this day, dear committee members, I am writing to provide my submission to the Senate inquiry into the access to diagnosis and treatment for people in Australia with tick-borne diseases. I appreciate the opportunity to share my experiences and concerns regarding this important public health issue. 2013, after pushing myself to keep working, I had a breakdown and had to face I was exhausted and struggling with my health. I had to stop working. For the next 2 years, I went to multiple practitioners and doctors trying to work out what was wrong with me. It gives me so much heartache as I loved my home. It seems that the government workers and doctors are the only people in this country that aren't aware Lyme exists here, and it's real. Centrelink had no compassion, and the rudest, disrespectful people I have experienced in my life, treating me like I was trying to rip off the system. It was so distressing, and medical exemptions being cut short because someone on the other end of the phone that knows nothing about rickettsia or Lyme decides that I'll be right to go back to work, find work. At one stage, I struggled to even know my name as I lost most of my memory and nothing made sense to me. It was scary. Sleep at night, I would sweat the bed out, and horrible, painful nervous system where I would punch my arms up to get some relief from it. Brain fog, super fatigue, couldn't understand dates and time. Numbers were all mucked up in my mind, and I would get appointments wrong all the time. I'd cry heaps. I was a walking crying machine. Depression, horrible anxiety, and often had my sister on the phone to help me walk into buildings, etc. My body would get shaky. System. Pain, shoulder, neck, back, knees, and foot. Painful to walk on my feet. Would walk on tiptoes. Headaches, hard to breathe. Thyroid problems and mold illness are another whole new complicated level of stress. It was so hard not just on me, but my daughters, to have a mum that couldn't function properly, and they often had to run the household as I had to go to bed not long after I had been up and most of the day. I lost friends and family because they didn't believe me, and especially when it took so long to fix. They believed the government narrative and that Lyme wasn't in this country. I was devastated to lose my business and not work anymore. I loved my work. With that loss came the lack of identity and the loss of connection with people, and of course, no income. My health debt was increasing, and so was my stress about it. I wrote a book about my experience, Lyme disease sucks, to help others so they didn't need to spend as much money and give people some support. It was a great grieving tool for me as I wrote it and relieved the trauma of Lyme. People shouldn't have to go through the quicksand like I did, trying to work out what the treatments are available. Treatments I did: IV nutrition, detox, coffee enemas, colonics, castor oil packs, foot baths, detox baths, doctors, naturopaths, psychologists, physiotherapists, craniosacral massage, Chinese medicine, acupuncture, Reiki, sound therapy, frequency, color therapy. Okay, there's just heaps. Ozone, red light therapy, blue light therapy. The sad part is worse than when I started as far as supporting Lyme people. And I often recommend people go overseas for treatment. Much quicker, more support and compassion, and heaps cheaper. This country is so behind, and not only assisting Lyme to get better, but actually having the latest equipment and methods here. Is trained how to remove ticks and recognize reaction and treat accordingly. Centrelink needs to treat Lyme people with respect and understanding. They need education, and Lyme people should have access to disability pension. Allow latest equipment treatments into Australia for fast-tracking recovery. I trust you will finally acknowledge and support Lyme. Regards. 1999, I constantly spoke to doctors about feeling so tired. Initially, I was told it was because I had young children. Then it was because I was busy. But this tiredness was more exhaustion than needing a nap. I continued to work, even though I would often get to work and be desperate to have a sleep. Obviously, I couldn't do that and just pushed my body to continue. In 2010, I went through a lot of stress. In 2011, I had my first breakdown. The doctor's only solution: give antidepressants. I spoke to the doctor how these can make people suicidal. She wasn't interested. I looked the RX, but not the tablets. I searched for many months to find another doctor. In the meantime, I had another breakdown. This time was in public where I was working. Not good. In 2012, I found a doctor that took more tests and listened to what I had to say, and diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, depression, anxiety, insomnia, brain fog, and a nervous system that was ready to explode. The doctor put me on some tablets as well as vitamin supplements. The doctor strongly recommended I stopped working and allow my body to get well. I started the most degrading experience of my life, Centrelink. Over the last 3 years, I have had to deal with the incompetence and lack of compassion of their workers, with the rare exception. I have worked all my life and I didn't deserve to be treated so lowly. I hate being unemployed and have had to deal with Centrelink adding to the stress and anxiety of my life. This still does cause me stress to this day. They keep trying to send me back to work, even though I have 2 doctors' medical certificates to say that I'm not capable at the moment. In my quest for good health, I tried various natural therapies to help me cope with a feeding body: osteopath, kinesiology, naturopath, Reiki, massage, etc. In December 2013, my kinesiologist decided we needed to investigate deeper, as I wasn't getting any better and I should have been with everything I was doing. He discovered Borrelia. I was told this to my doctor, but she just said it was the same symptoms as chronic fatigue and therefore was chronic fatigue. In October 2014, my doctor finally agreed that my condition was deteriorating, and she thought I had Lyme, really. So now, after all these months, we were going to look into Lyme. We did a blood test in Geelong which showed I had 5 types of rickettsia. From there, I had my blood flown to the USA, approximately $1,800, which came back as a positive for Borrelia and also Bartonella. My world crashed. Initially, I was going to take antibiotics, but then I thought I can't possibly do this, as I still have a child at school and I need to be able to take care of her. At this stage, the financial pressure is huge. My sister had already paid for my USA blood tests and I have no money left, and basically I still have years of treatment in front of me. So I've had to sell anything that isn't hammered down in my house and borrow money. My treatments, depending on how I am coping with the week and what symptoms are raising their head. Doctors, Chinese medicine, kinesiology, biorenaissance, there is a whole lot. Very strict diet, no dairy, no sugar, no grains, no alcohol. Eat only organic meat, milk, vegetables. Drink mineralized pure water. Sleeps 2 day sleeps and in bed by 8:30 p.m. Sauna, coffee enema. Try to exercise. Really have enough energy to do that. Detoxing, staying away from chemicals, trying to minimize stress, and carrying EMF protection. I recently ended up in emergency with suspected viral meningitis, but I do believe the swelling of my brain was actually due to my exposure to radiation and chemicals from the airport when I flew back to family for Christmas to be looked after. Doctors have no explanation for my inflamed brain. All I would have spent in the last 3 years would exceed $40,000. I applied to get access to my superannuation to cover living expenses and medical expenses. The total maximum amount they would give me $10,000, and my application was denied, saying that what I required was available through the public health system. And what would that be? Antidepressants? The government system does not support us in any way. It is just one stress after another. At the moment, I have private health, but once it expires, I can't afford to renew it. It's frustrating because I look fine most of the time, so therefore it is assumed I am. If only people could feel what's going on inside my body. I would like to be doing so much more with improving my health, but finance is a huge issue. Lack of knowing and understanding by doctors is a massive problem. You really need to be constantly researching about Lyme to find out about the latest treatments and how to manage your symptoms and reactions. It's tough. Just on the Sunshine Coast alone, I know so many people with Lyme. So how does the government not acknowledge that Lyme is in this country, caused by our own ticks and mozzies, and set up the appropriate up-to-date testing equipment and much needed support?